This edition of Forge and Anvil in the Van is brought to you by our supporters at Substack. If you wish to join them, go to forgeandanvil.substack.com. You can become a paid supporter, or you can simply sign up for your email to stay in touch and consume our free content that we have there as well. Again, that is forgeandanvil.substack.com. Alrighty, everyone. Well, we're going to be getting into some fairly heavy news here. On Sunday, there was a shooter at Joel Osteen's church in Texas. And, of course, that news was kind of overshadowed by the Super Bowl. So we'll get into it here. Unfortunately, this shooter may be a transgender individual. So this is now another incident of a transgender person becoming violent and wanting to specifically target Christians. Of course, those of us into theology may not consider Joel Olsteen a Christian, but nonetheless, publicly, that is how he presents. So it's something to note. So this is from the Post-Millennial. Joel Olsteen church shooter identified as Janice Moreno also went by Jeffrey, according to local media. The individual who walked into Joel Olsteen's Lakewood, Texas church on Sunday pulled out a gun and opened fire and has been identified as Janice Yvonne Moreno, 36. Moreno was wearing a trench coat, opened fired when entering the church along with a 5-year-old child. Local news reports that multiple sources have said that Janice Yvonne Moreno is suspected of being the armed woman who was killed at the church Sunday. Reports indicated that the shooter was female, but Moreno may have been male. Moreno was shot and killed by 2 off-duty officers. Moreno's weapons was emblazoned with the slogan, Free Palestine. Jeremy Rogalski of Cow TV further reported that Moreno had prior arrests for assault, forgery, marijuana possession, theft, evading an unlawful carrying weapon. Janice Moreno went by Jeffrey Escalante Moreno, among other aliases, and was from El Salvador. The child Moreno brought to the church was shot and injured. The child remains in critical condition in a local hospital. I'm going to stop right there for a moment to say that I've seen mixed reports on the age of the child, but it does seem that there's a consensus that the child was Moreno's son. So keep that in mind. And unfortunately, reports are also saying that the child is unlikely to survive. So be praying for recovery of the child and that Christ will use this scenario to really transform this child's life. I'm going to continue on. A 57-year-old man was also shot in the leg and taken to the hospital for treatment. Authorities searched a home in Conroe that is believed to be associated with the shooter. Moreno openly discussed a love of firearms and posted about cleaning an AR-15, showing off the weapon as well. Moreno also posted about giving money to Osteen's church and indicated that Moreno had attended and was part of that church. Moreno's Instagram page shows that Moreno presented in a feminine way. Moreno also expressed support for Bernie Sanders. Moreno shared posts about a child who appeared to be in Moreno's care. Osteen spoke about the shooting, saying, "There are evil forces, but the forces that are for us, the forces of God, are stronger than that." I hope my Osteen impression was decent. It's been a while since I've heard him speak, but there you go. That one's free. All right, so some of you may be wondering why this article even mentioned the fact that they were a Bernie supporter or that they liked their AR-15. And the reality is, whenever there is a shooter, it immediately becomes a war for narrative, because unfortunately the corporate press tends to always try to find any inkling of an idea that the shooter may have supported right-wing causes. And the moment that they can find anything that might lend credibility to that narrative, they run with it. So unfortunately, outlets like the Post-Millennial have to do their job reporting that this person supported Bernie Sanders. It's not because we believe that all Bernie Sanders supporters are now going to be shooting up churches and schools, but it's because just pinning that bit of knowledge out to the public helps to avoid the immediate slander that the right receives from corporate news outlets that immediately try to make any mentally ill shooter appear to be right-wing, because they're trying to constantly drum up this narrative that right-wingers are violent threats to the public. So it's good to have noticed that this person, in fact, supported Bernie Sanders. Now, William Wolf posted on Twitter, the T in LGBT stands for terrorist. And now, unfortunately, the Covenant shooter that we had in Nashville over a year ago now, they were a woman who identified as a male. And although it's not 100% certain that this person was definitively transgender, we obviously see that they had multiple aliases. They like to present themselves as male. So by today's standards, that pretty much means transgender. But we don't know whether or not this person was taking any puberty blockers or anything like that, or any testosterone. But I believe in the Covenant shooter's case, that was proven. And there are not very many studies done on the effects of those drugs, mostly because the universities and other institutions that typically fund those studies, they tend to fund the exact opposite type of studies. They try to fund studies that prove that that taking these chemicals is an amazing thing. But the few studies that have been done have shown that women taking testosterone become very aggressive, which isn't shocking to those of us who understand how testosterone works. It's just interesting because it's pretty rare that we see female shooters at all. They're like a complete anomaly. And here in the last year and a half or so, we've now seen 2 female shooters who identified, at least in certain times, as male, and they happen to target Christian institutions. One was a private Christian school in Nashville, and now this Christian church in Texas. And again, whether you think their theology is good or not is irrelevant. It's how they present themselves to the public as Christian. Now, unfortunately, the Houston police are kind of making a fool of themselves as well. This is also from the Post Millennial. I thought they did a good job summarizing this. It says, Houston police ran investigation to determine preferred pronouns of Lakewood church shooter. The Houston Police Department gave a briefing on Monday and revealed that they conducted an investigation to determine the preferred pronouns of the Lakewood church shooter. The shooter, Janice Moreno, used previous aliases, including Jeffrey, but it has been determined that Moreno was female per police. There are some discrepancies, said Commander Hessig during the briefing. We do have reports that she used multiple aliases, including Jeffrey Escalante. She has utilized both male and female names, but through all our investigation to this point, talking with individuals, interviews, documents, Houston Police Department reports that she has been identified this entire time as female, she, her. And so we are identifying her as Janice Moreno, Hispanic female. Arrest records indicate that Moreno used multiple names, both male and female, and there was speculation that Moreno's identity and identifiers may have been transgender. Houston police also said that Moreno had a history of mental health issues. They said that there was anti-Semitic writing found among her things, which they speculated has to do with a dispute with her ex-husband's family. So again, this is another moment where individuals are going above and beyond to help the criminal to have a sort of good public look after they are long gone at an attempted shooting. It's very unfortunate that the Houston police is even making a point to say they investigated it, at least in that same way. Honestly, they should just come out and say, yeah, this person born female, this female was shot after she attempted to shoot up a church. There should not be this willingness to use preferred pronouns, especially from our institutions. The reality is, Joel Osteen is probably the most squishy Christian when it comes to hard topics. He just wants to preach wealth and prosperity and the prosperity gospel, which is a heresy in itself. But Joel has constantly caved to the cultural pressures of LGBTQ issues, and yet look where it got him. It does not matter how winsome you are and how much you try to appear to have a great witness. At the end of the day, only the full gospel presented is what's going to change people's hearts. Only calling sinners to repentance is what's going to save these transgender LGBTQIA2+ individuals from their life of sin and from the misery that it ultimately leaves them with, which is what causes some of these mental health issues. So I'm going to leave it there for now, but be praying that the child of Moreno, that they have a full recovery. It's expected that they will not, unfortunately, but be praying anyways. Maybe God can turn the situation around and really get a hold of that child's life. Be praying for the man who was also shot as well in the incident. I believe that he has been dispatched already, so it sounds like he was not seriously injured, but still prayers for his recovery, and prayers out to the officers who took down the shooter, because they are heroes and they should be regarded as such. And I would not be surprised if they become villainized in the coming days as the narrative continues onward. But thank you guys so much for listening to this edition of In the Van. If you wish to support us, go to forgeandanvil.substack.com. We really appreciate your support. And if you don't have the funding to become a paid supporter, feel free to just sign up your email. It does allow us to keep in contact with you, and we do have free writing and content for you to consume. All of our podcasts are up there for free. And for you members, I will be recording some members-only content here soon for you to enjoy, to make your support a little bit more worth it. So we appreciate it. Hope you have a great day.